what happens when Pokemon card prices drop, or even worse, crashes? The UK has just gone into recession. There's probably going to be more recessions announced worldwide. If this affects the Pokemon card markets and we see drops in prices, then what does that mean for you as a collector or for you as an investor? What's the best thing to do in that situation? In this video, I'm going to outlay the 3 different personas and what each persona will do or should do in the event of a price dip or worse, a price crash. Keep watching to find out what the best thing to do would be if you don't want to lose money or don't want to lose value with your Pokemon card investments.
Are you ready for shredding?
What's up guys, welcome to another episode of the Pokemon Card Classic with the jacked, stacked serial thriller of Pokemon card collecting, Shreddy. So what's going to happen to Pokemon card prices if they drop, or worse yet, if the market crashes completely? Now people will talk and say that Pokemon never dips. I've spoken to people on Instagram over the past 4, 5, 6 months, however long it's been since I set that Instagram channel up. Pokemon Card Classic, by the way, the link's down in the description below, who have had conversations with me and tell me that Pokemon isn't like a normal stock market or isn't like a regular, investment industry or anything like that. And they tell me that Pokemon prices never go down. These people are also Pokemon resellers, Pokemon retailers, Pokemon investors or Pokemon experts who make their sole income selling Pokemon cards. The only people I have ever heard say that Pokemon card prices do not drop are the full-time Pokemon guys. Someone like me who has been collecting since 1999, took a break in the early 2000s to the mid 2000s and started collecting again in 2008. I 100% have seen a dip in the market, and I've seen dips in the market, all the way through this. I think the most recent was like 2017, 2018 after the big Pokemon Go rise in 2016. But in 2008, and I've explained this on other videos, we had a crash or a dip in the market that a lot of people, what I'm about to tell you guys right now, a lot of you guys probably won't even believe or will think I'm lying or I'm fabricating it or just making it up. But keep listening to, have some insight from somebody that has been around to see these dips and see these rises. Back in 2008, Team Rocket booster boxes were going for £25 per booster box. Literally, I used to buy dozens of Team Rocket booster boxes, unlimited, not first edition, unlimited Team Rocket booster boxes for as cheap as £25. £30 to £35 was the kind of average price, but they would be listed on eBay and they could be listed for weeks before they would sell. I would sometimes try and get them and haggle them down to £25 a box. So if we look at that mini dip, well, it's not even a mini dip, it's quite a big dip. If we look at what the prices of Team Rocket booster packs were in 2000, 2001, in the UK they retailed for £2.50 a pack. So if you were going to do £2.50 times 36 for a booster pack, I'll just pull the calculator out. Well, it's not a calculator, it's actually a Ford. So a booster box at retail value per booster pack would have cost £90 in dollars. Someone let me know down in the comments below what that equates to in dollars. Google it. I was buying them for £25 to 30, anywhere between £25 and £35, but as cheap as £25. I don't want to kind of give the the misconception that every single box I was buying was £25, but a lot of boxes were only £25. So at the retail value in 2000, 2001, Team Rocket booster packs is £90. 2008, 2009, on average, let's call it £30 a box. That's literally a third of the price. I don't know what that is in terms of a percentage decrease. Again, Google it, let me know. But in terms of a drop, that's £30 is literally 1/3 of the retail value. So there's a dip. So for anyone that says that Pokemon never dips, fast forward to 2017, 2018, look at the price drops since the 2016 boom with Pokemon Go. So Pokemon dips in the market are a very real thing, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Just as a little, disclaimer, disclosure, or whatever you might want to call this, I personally think Pokemon long term is going to be, it's going to go up way, way more in value. I'm just stating what I think, my opinion is that I think long term, if you compare 2020 to 2030, 2040, if you have it on a graph, this is the price here, I think you're going to just look at that price increasing. But short term along the way, and I've explained this in videos before, the price is going to go like this, is going to be ups, is going to be downs, because that's just natural in any kind of stock market, investment market, even other collectible items. Things go up and things go down. Prices don't always just rise forever, and there's a number of reasons for that, but that's another video. Today we're talking about what to do in the event of a price dip, or let's call it a price crash. So I've identified 3 personas that I think most people will fall into. So let me know down in the comments below after you hear me explain what these 3 are. Let me know what you think you fall into. Okay, so persona number 1 is in the event of a price crash. We have those newbie investors, or those investors that don't know what they're doing, who start to get that worry, start to get that feeling of anxiety when they see the prices of the cards dropping, that instantly will panic sell. This happens all the time in stock markets and things like that, where someone will buy a stock at whatever price it is, and then the price starts crashing, the price starts dropping to the point where it's considered a crash. And people want to, jump off a sinking ship. People would rather reclaim some money than lose all of the money completely. Sometimes that company might go bust. Sometimes that company might just, have a low point for a while and then the prices recover. The only time that you lose money is if you've bought something. So let's say for a Pokemon card, let's say you bought a Pokemon card for £100, for argument's sake, off the top of my head. Let's say it's a Scyther Jungle First Edition. I don't know what the prices are, but let's just go with that as the example. Let's say you bought a PSA 9 Scyther Jungle for £100. If the prices then drop and that card goes to as low as, let's for example say £40, the card is worth less. You spent £100, you have an asset, you have an item, you have a card in your collection. You've not physically lost money until you sell that card. So your money is tied up in the card, but until you physically sell that and no longer have the card anymore, you haven't lost money, you haven't gained money, it's just you're holding this object. So if the prices drop, and let's say the average rate of the card is £100, and then you start seeing them going on average for £95, not much of a drop whatsoever, so you're not too worried. But then let's say the week after, the average price is £85, then it's 75, and it just drops and drops and drops all the way down to, let's say, £40, and then £40 is the rate at which this card is selling for. The people that will panic sell, in my opinion, are the ones who have bought cards without doing any research, without being prepared to hold onto these cards long term. And it's people, when they're selling, who are desperate for the money or have that anxiety about losing money. If I've bought it for £100 and it's now worth £40, unless I've got no money in the bank or very little money in the bank, or I've had something crop up that needs needs all of my funds, I don't have money in savings to pay for something, I'm not interested in selling a card at a loss, especially a £60 loss. So the people that will panic sell are those who have came into the hobby probably at the late end of this 2020 boom, whether it's from an influencer's mention such as a Gary V, and that's not me throwing Gary V under the bus, but let's say it's someone who follows him, they've listened to his advice, or they've seen him post on Pokemon and think, okay, I'm going to jump into Pokemon, without doing too much research, without knowing too much about it, without really having the funds to buy products as an investment and sit on them. You have the panic sellers who see the money going down, and at the first sight of losing money, they're too worried, they want to get the money back, and they'll sell. So number 1 is the panic sellers. Also falling under this panic seller category are flippers. And if you're a flipper, you just want to buy an item and quickly turn it around to make a little bit of profit. As soon as you start seeing cards dropping, a flipper is going to want to sell almost immediately, because they're not in this for the long game. They're in this to buy a product, and maybe they make £10 or $10 on a card, and that's good enough for them. If they sit on it for a long term, they might make $100 if they sat on it long enough. But they're just interested in buy an item, sell it, take that money back, buy another item, sell it, and so on. Flippers will also, if they don't have the cash reserves, because they don't want to, you know, collect these cards, or they don't want to hold on to these cards. The only reason they're buying them is to sell them to make that quick profit. So quickly buy it, quickly sell it, quickly turn it around and get that quick money coming back in. If Flipper will also fall under that panic seller category, because they don't want to hold onto the products. So we have two kind of people that fall under that panic seller category. We then have the second persona, which I would call the collector. Now, a collector is probably what most of us are. Most of you guys watching this channel, most of you guys following me on Instagram. What I would personally classify myself as is a collector. What do collectors do in the event that the cards, you know, start to drop in price to the point where the market is seeing a crash? Well, I can't speak for others, but I can speak for myself as a collector. What would Shreddy do in that position? Absolutely nothing at all. If I'm buying cards for my collection has been built up since 1999, since I was 8-9 years old. I'm now 30 years old. If I see cards that are part of my personal collection taking a nosedive in price, it doesn't really bother me in the slightest, other than the fact of maybe I've got like, if I had that crystal ball, I'd have waited and bought it for a cheaper price. But that aside, if prices are starting to drop, it doesn't really bother me, because the items that are in my collection will stay in my collection. So a price increase or a price decrease really doesn't affect, you know, a collector, because as a collector, we want to buy these items and hold these items, not even necessarily as an investment, but we just want to have these as our own collection for our own enjoyment. So the second persona, the collector, shouldn't be worried about the prices going down, really, and there's nothing you would need to do in that scenario. What a collector could potentially do if they have the funds, if you're a huge collector of a certain kind of card or a certain kind of Pokemon, or you want numerous sets or numerous copies of certain cards, then you would buy more to increase your collection during that downturn, or during that, you know, that price dip or that price crash. And then if you have multiple copies of the same cards, you can kind of get an average price of what you've paid. So if you've paid for the Scyther at £100, but then the price drops to £60, you buy another one. The price then drops to, say, £20, you buy another one. You can then do the maths again. 100 plus 60 plus, let's say, 20 divided by 3, and get the average price of what your Scyther collection has costed you. So a collector may want to use this time to buy more cards if they have the funds available to grow their collection. And again, that's what I did in 2008, when the prices had massively dropped from the retail prices we saw in the late 90s and early 2000s. I built up the majority of my collection between that 2008-2013 period. And the price jumps there, the price didn't bother me in the slightest, because I was just in this for, you know, the fun of collecting. Lastly, number 3. So what is the third persona? So the third persona is the smart investor, which I would consider myself trying to transition towards. And I mentioned this in the video I did with Jake from Pokenomics. I don't class myself as a Pokemon investor. If I am a Pokemon investor, it's because I've defaulted into that category because I collect Pokemon cards and the prices have kind of started up. There is people out there though who would solely just buy for investment reasons. They might not even be a fan of Pokemon, but hopefully they've done the research to invest their money, see this, you know, see these cards purely as an asset or purely as an object that the hope is going to raise in value to then sell on. There's no emotion, there's no nostalgia, there's no kind of desire to catch them all, pun intended, with the investors. But Persona 3 is different to the first Persona, which was the daft investor, we'll call them. Persona 3 is the smart investor. What do you do when you have full confidence in a franchise, or full confidence in a company, or full confidence in something that long term will make you money? Those dips, as a smart investor, those dips are what you're hoping to see. Those price crashes are what you're hoping will come, because when the price crashes, now is the time to buy. If you're an investor that has done your homework in Pokemon, and for whatever reason you see this as, okay, for the next 20 years or over the next 30 years, I think this franchise is going to grow by X amount, or you've got a good feeling based on the research that you've done that this is a solid investment for you, and that in 20, 30, 10 years time, you're going to be able to profit from this, then a price crash right now is literally the best thing that could happen. If prices crash now, okay, so I've got base sets, booster box there. I've got theme decks behind me here, seal. I've got this expensive Team Rocket case with the cards in it. I've paid kind of slightly under what I would consider slightly under market prices in 2020 for these cards because I've managed to negotiate what I would consider good deals. But if we saw a price crash, do you know what Shreddy would do? This base set booster box right here, I would be filling my, my collection full of these. And the reason for that is because long term, and I've seen, Pokemon since 1999 to, grow to where it is now. I've seen the ups, I've seen the downs in the market, and I personally have confidence in Pokemon being a solid long-term investment. So the best thing for me to happen now would be for a crash in the market. Despite the price I've paid for these products here, if I saw a crash in the market, I would literally be buying as many items as I could physically afford, which would, for me, my collection purposes, my interests are all Wizards of the Coast vintage products. I would be buying sealed products predominantly, just because at the moment I'm looking to, collect sealed products. I would be looking to buy first editions because my personal collection is lacking first editions across the board, really, across the board of the WotC sets. I would be looking at a mixture of raw cards, I would be looking at a mixture of graded cards, but I would literally be buying up as much as I could comfortably afford to just add to my collection, because I've seen what's happened over the last 20 years. I'm confident in another 10 years or 20 years that Pokemon will continue to grow, that the franchise will continue to grow, that the hobby will continue to grow. So if a price crash happened, or if a price dip happened right now, smart investors, long-term smart investors that have confidence in the product, that have confidence in the brand and in the franchise, and have confidence in Pokemon as a solid investment, not just, oh, it's a fad in 2020 that's, grown exponentially in a couple of months. If you truly believe that this franchise is going to pay off long term, then a price crash, you should be buying as much as you can comfortably afford. If you're seeing a price crash and your instinct is to sell, then you're going to have guys like me just buying up your products at your loss, because if there's a crash, if there's a dip, very unlikely that you're making profit or even getting back the same amount of money that you paid for it. You're going to be selling at a loss, and there's going to be people like me, and there'll be hundreds if not thousands of other people out there who will think along the same lines and will buy, your misfortune will actually help other people get cards and get items at a more affordable price to hold on to them long term, to sell 10, 15, 20 years from now, or just to grow a really awesome collection like I've done over the past, 20 years, 21 years, 22 years, however long it's been. So those are my takes on what would happen if the price of Pokemon cards dips, or worse yet, if the Pokemon market crashes. Will there be a dip? It's literally impossible to say. The Pokemon market, I don't think anybody expected to go the way it did in 2020. My gut feeling is that there's going to be some kind of dip across vintage products, but it's just my opinion, and because of the rapid growth we've seen. I think when the recession starts to hit worldwide, I think people will see all this money they've got tied up in Pokemon cards. They might be unemployed, they might see that as a way to get some extra income. But if people aren't spending, if there's not as many people buying cards there, the demand goes down, then the price is going to go down, because if less people want something, there's less people to bid against each other, and that's kind of what will cause a dip. Is that going to happen for definite? I don't know, I'm just guessing, it's just my opinion. I think there will be some kind of dip. I'm not saying a crash, but if the market does crash, whether it's this year, next year, at any point, my personal advice, my gut feeling would be not to sell, not to panic sell, but that's because I have faith in the franchise that will pay off long term. So when I see a dip, when I see a crash, that's actually an even better time for me to buy products. I'm interested to know though, guys, which of those personas do you think you fall into? Do you think you fall into the first one, that flipper, what I would call, there's a flipper, basically the panic seller, which could include the flippers and the daft investors. The second category, which is where I personally think I sit, which is the collector, or the third category, which is the smart investor or the long-term investor. And I think I kind of am transitioning between that collector and just by default, I'm that kind of long-term investor, just because, you know, Pokemon's a franchise that I really believe in. Let me know what category you think you fall into and what you would do in the event of a price crash. Do you have the funds available to be able to hold on to your cards? Do you have the funds available to be able to buy more cards? Or would you kind of see a dip in the price as, okay, I want to get out and just recoup, you know, as much money as I can? Let me know down in the comments below if you enjoyed this video. As always, smash that like button, and while you're smashing that button, smash the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of all Pokemon Card Classic videos coming up on YouTube. You can follow me on social media, the links are down below. But until next time, remember, collecting ain't no gimmick, it's a lifestyle. Thanks for watching this video, guys. There's some links on screen right now where you can go and check out other videos from the Pokemon Card Classic. So make sure to give them a watch if you enjoyed this one.